Before we get started with the video, there's a few things on the business side of the house that I want to go over. So these two manifolds and what are in this box right here are all things that are for sale currently. Now the two manifolds are two of my 2JZ GTE Gen R billet collector exhaust manifolds. Now actually this one right here is put aside for my buddy Mike, but I have another one of the manifolds over there on the shelf that is for sale currently. These manifolds are 321 stainless steel construction with billet secondary merge collectors and billet head flanges. This one here is a T4 twin scroll with twin 44mm wastegate provisions, whereas this one is a GT30 or GT35R V-band with a single Turbo Smart 60mm wastegate provision. And this is a very rare option, one that I likely will not make again. So these two manifolds are for sale currently, as well as all of these. And what these are limited edition retro BPA keychains. Now, these are made from leftover BPA manifold weld tags, similar to these guys that you see on the manifolds right here. But these are my original design that I don't really have any use for anymore. So I figured, why not turn it into kind of a cool little limited edition trinket that I can share with you guys. So the logos are water jet cut out of just 304 stainless steel sheet. And I went through and drilled the hole and chamfered the holes and cleaned up everything and packaged them. And now we have 54 of these that are available for purchase. So by the time this video goes live, everything here will be on the website, and you can buy any of these things and have yourself a piece of BPA goodness and be part of the BPA family. So like I said, these two manifolds, and I have 54 of these keychains. These won't be available again, and this manifold will not be available again. So if you want to pick up any of these things that you see on the table here, or any of the three things that just went over on the table, go to www.bpautosports.net. That is also linked in the description below. And all the purchasing information and everything else is available on the website, as well as my contact form if you have any questions for me. So with the business side of the house out of the way, let's go ahead and get to the video. Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. So the previous episode, we worked on the Supra's transmission yet again and got it all reinstalled and all is good to go with it. But today we are going to get back on the Mark II. And what we're going to do is to start prepping the engine bay for its new paint job. So the last time we worked on this car, we went ahead and removed and got everything out of the way as best we could to do the engine bay prep and to get it ready to there's engine bay prep is what I titled the video. And today we're going to start the actual engine bay prep on this thing. So the first thing I need to do before I start rolling it outside, power washing it and everything else, is today I think it's still a little bit too cool to do that. But in the next few days, the temperature should warm up here, at least enough where I can roll it outside and clean everything up. But we can do the bagging and the prep to be able to roll it outside and power wash it today. So all of these electrical connectors, I'm going to bag all of these, try to block the holes in the firewall as best I can. Just pretty much protect anything and everything that doesn't need to have water introduced into it from the water that will be introduced into the engine bay. So hopefully this isn't too cumbersome of a job to do. I don't think there's all that many things that need to be covered up. Really just the electrical connectors and then like this AC connection here, so on and so forth. So I guess without me rambling on forever, let's go ahead and start getting this done. And before too long, we'll have everything prepped and ready for some high pressure water to be sprayed throughout the engine bay. the rest of the roll of my wide paint tape and even some of my narrower paint tape later. And we have everything bagged up and tied up that needs to be, I guess, looking at this real quick, aside from this port right here. So this should hopefully prevent water from entering any of the electrical connectors and potentially corroding or causing any issues that way. So I feel pretty confident about it, and I'll still pay attention to where I'm spraying water around the areas like the clutch rod, the brake rod, so on and so forth. Those holes, I'll keep the water away from them. So that way I don't end up creating a swamp on the inside of the car. But this is as good as it's going to get right now. And the car at this point in time, minus clearing up all the residual fasteners and everything else strewn all over the remaining architecture here, it's ready to go outside and ready to be power washed. Like I said earlier, we're not going to do that right now. It's supposed to be a little bit warmer in the next few days, and I'll take advantage of the nice weather to roll the car outside and do that then. But I'm excited to finally be making some progress on this thing, and I can't wait to start getting it under paint. Now, one unfortunate thing about this car here, and just in the name of transparency, is I could very easily just not talk about this, but that isn't the way that I like to operate. The transmission pan is leaking again, so another false victory. It is what it is, and I'm not going to do anything about it right now. The leak is smaller than it was previously. I'll just deal with it for the time being, and the only thing that I can think of to do at this point in time is to get some ATF safe RTV and try the skim coat on both sides of the gasket again. But it is what it is. It's part of dealing with these cars, and I always make the joke to people that cars are a fun hobby, a stress reliever. It's a fun thing to do, obviously being sarcastic when things like this happen, but it is what it is, and I'll deal with it later on. So with that being said, and kind of reaching the ending point here today, I'm going to wrap this portion of the video up, and then the next few days, when it's time to roll this thing outside and start spit shining it in preparation to put some paint down, we'll pick up then and make some more progress, and hopefully by the time this video is done, this will be clean, and we may even be able to get some of the paint prep done. So I'll see you guys then. We'll keep rolling with this car and see how far we get with it. Well, today's a day I wasn't exactly looking forward to, but it's a necessary one. So what we're going to do today is finally roll the Mark II outside and power wash the engine bay, and I'll probably just power wash everything since this thing is kind of crusty. So it's 30 something degrees outside, not ideal power washing conditions, but it is what it is. It needs to be done, and this is the warmest that it's going to be in a little while here. So I just need to suck it up, get it done, and then it will be over with. So what we're working with for this power washing, I have a jug of Simple Green, spray bottle for said Simple Green, and then I have 2 brushes, this for a little bit wider coverage, and then this one for nooks and crannies. So hopefully with this stuff and some high pressure water, we can get this car cleaned up and ready to actually start paint prep. So without me rambling on anymore, let's get the car outside and start freezing my hands. Well, that looks a little bit better than it did before. And there's still some areas where there's some grit and some grime, but at least I power washed off the bulk of what I could power wash off. And now I can go ahead and sand the rest of it. So this wasn't too bad to do. The most difficult portion was getting the car back in the shop afterwards. As you guys just saw, I used the Kubota side-by-side, and I didn't film it, but I ended up rigging the lift arms on the passenger side of the car with a chain wrapped around the actual bumper on the car. And long story short, I managed to get the car back in the shop. So all that being said and all that aside, now I can go ahead and start actually sanding and getting the surface ready for some new primer. And I'm debating if I want to drop the subframe out and have it powder coated and cleaned up as well. Not 100% sure if I'm going to do that or not, but I said that about painting the engine bay, so more than likely it will end up happening. But at least for right now, we are done with the Mark II for this video, and we'll get back to it very shortly. But we have one more segment to go, and that is tomorrow I'm going to go over to Matt's place, and we're going to use some pretty cool, pretty high-tech stuff to figure out how to make the head flange for the new exhaust manifold for the Mark II. So I'm going to get out of here for today. We'll reconvene tomorrow over at Matt's place and go over some pretty cool tech and something that I think you guys will appreciate. So I'll see you then. So after a pretty neat little time lapse there with some cool blue lights and Matt being an absolute genius with this stuff, we have the 5M head here, the old exhaust manifold here. We have all of these little reference dots on each of the parts and then a few of them on the table itself. And we have Matt here with a very high-tech solution to a very low-tech head and low-tech problem. So he's finishing up doing some of the design work on the actual exhaust manifold head flange. And once we get that wrapped up and can go over a few more details about it on the program here, we'll pick back up then and stop bugging Matt right now so we can finish up doing this. And we'll talk about it in a little bit more detail in a few minutes. So a little bit more time and we have a flange on the computer. So you can see on the back side here, I have a 3D gasket mating surface on the back side. And the purpose of doing that is so as you're actually clamping the manifold down, you're applying the force directly to the gasket surface as opposed to other material on the backside of the flange. And for my sake, it makes it easier to sand it afterwards and get everything flat. So, Matt, you did a hell of a job.
Thanks.
And we have all your dots here. And I know there's a point you wanted to make about the scanner. So what were we talking about before?
A lot of people think that the scanner can just take and make a model and then you can input it into a CNC and it be done.
Yep.
Oftentimes that's not the case. If you buy a $25,000 to $30,000 piece of software, it will do it for you, but most people do not have that access.
A little bit cost prohibitive.
So what we have to do is, you can see on that here, we take the actual scan data and then we can reference it. We reference the geometry and then take them and build the model off of the geometry that we took off the scan.
Right. So we're using the scan essentially as a tool to get the shapes and a reference material to make the flange in the software, right?
Yep, that's exactly it.
So it makes it a whole hell of a lot easier as opposed, I mean, we were sitting here joking, it's like with this old head here, if you had to go through and measure out and do it the old school slide rule and abacus way to figure out all the shapes here, that would be a nightmare. That would be not next to, or wouldn't be impossible, but next to it. Whereas this guy right here makes that a whole lot easier. And I'm just thankful that you decided to spend the money on it so I can reap the benefits from it. Yeah. So we have the design pretty much done for this flange, and it's a little bit different than a normal M-series or M-style flange just due to this area right in here, which I believe these three holes are for, I think it's the power steering pump bracket or something like that, but it needs this little notch out of it so that way that bracket can go on, everything can be happy, and everything will work out. So this is every feature that I possibly could have wanted in a flange, and it's always cool to be able to sit here and be part of the design process with it. And I don't know about you, but I like sitting here and being able to bounce ideas off of each other's heads and come up with something pretty cool.
It's nice to get what you want in the first go around.
Exactly. So this will, I have no doubt, this will be the nicest head flange that's ever been used on a 5M before. Yeah. Probably will be ever in the future, unless the 5M market explodes in the not too distant future. But I can't wait to get this thing in my hands and get started laying some tubes and building a new manifold for it. So Matt, as always, I thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to humor me and play around with this stuff. And I look forward to getting this part and getting started on the manifold for it.
Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully this video wasn't too all over the place for you guys. I know we did a handful of different things in it, and I'm really happy to have gotten over to Matt's and to have shown kind of the scanning process and some of the background of what goes into building the parts that you guys see me build on the channel here. Now, it's easy to take for granted that, yeah, a flange is a flange, but when you think about what goes into making one, well, how do you know what size the bolt holes are? How do you know what size the ports are, what shape they need to be, etc., etc.? All of the different nuances in just making the thing fit on the side of a cylinder head, let alone, well, how do I want a chamfer to be designed? How do I want this feature to be designed? So on and so forth. So there's a ton that goes into it, and obviously I didn't show every single nuance of it, but it's doing the design work and working with people like Matt on designing parts like that is one of my favorite things to do, as the ability and the amount of creativity that you're able to employ into a part is the only limit is how far your imagination can go, and I think that's really cool. But we're going to end this one here, as I don't know how long the run time is going to be. Hopefully not crazy long, but there's a lot of cool stuff and a lot of good information here, and we got to clean up the Mark II as well, which is always a nice thing. So before I go on forever, let's go ahead and wrap this one up. So thank you guys as always for tuning in, for watching all the things that happen in the shop, and now all the things that we've done over at Matt's place, and even more things to come from there. But it makes my day, it warms my heart that you guys take time out of your days to come along for this ride with me, and I hope that I'm doing the time that you spend with me justice. So today we're going to end off over here at the old Waffle House, taking in some guilty pleasure food, but I'm going to go ahead and get to that as I am starving now, and my brain's starting to fade. So as always, be sure to subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment, and I will see you guys in the next episode.